froze.
No, it seems to be working now.
It's working. All right, we're on. Are we on?
Yeah, I think we are now.
All right, okay. Right, live. Okay, look, thank you for joining us. Look, we've got a promo, and also I wanted to show you guys something that's turned up recently. We're going to do an online workshop, and we've got some people with us, which we're quite honoured to have, which is Lynn Pickett and Clive Prince. And they were involved in writing books about the Templars, and the Cathars. They're quite heavily involved in research with that, so much so they were asked to act as advisors on the Dan Brown Da Vinci Code film, because of their knowledge in those things. And that's really important, because in our attempt to chase up old teachings, which is what the Hopi speak about during this time of change, the old teachings are in the Bible and in ancient scriptures, and particularly within the Bible. I'm looking at the area that got kicked out, which was Gnosticism, and that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be discussing Gnosticism, and with particular influence on Mary Magdalene. One of our first books we wrote was called Mary Magdalene's Dreaming, where we looked at the coincidental links and comparisons, which I don't think are coincidental, between the dreaming and Gnosticism. And we believe that there's so many links between the two strands of philosophy or spirituality that it's not coincidental. I mean, to the stage that in the Gospel of Eve said the soul that's inside humans is also the same soul that's inside animals, even trees. And that is very much a original animist approach. In Gnosticism, Jesus talks about the bubbling spring that he has tended. Doesn't say he's invented something. He's actually reinventing or presenting something that's ancient. And we believe that's the dreaming. And we're going to be looking at that in some detail. Now, in that pursuit, we're also going to be using some rocks, and some ones that have just turned up, and I'm going to show you two at the moment. And they share a couple of things or share quite a few things. And this is the first one to show you. It's a circular rock. And it's actually meant to be held with your hand around there, and that's why that section's been roughed away on the back and the front. It's been roughed away so it's held not this way but the other way around, but I can't really do that here. It goes something like that. Now, what's interesting is, ladies and gentlemen, look at how that's been shaped together, how that's been done, and try and work out yourself, where's the percussion point if it's stick, stone and bone technology, which it isn't. And this particular rock was found in 1959. Shouldn't say found, it was stolen. That's obviously the case. And here's another part of that group. And I'm going to hold this one up now. And this on one side has 7 circles up there. Now what's interesting is if you look at those circles, you'll see two things. Number one, the hint of a darker coat that originally was on both sides. You can see it on both. This one's got 9 circles. And that coat is the obvious normal silica and resin we speak about on so many of the rocks there. You'll see vestiges of it. And what's really interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is they're not circles. Every one of these ones is a spiral that starts in the center there and then goes out, and you can find a line at the end that's incomplete. All of them are done in spirals. Now, we've never seen this before. We've seen plenty of stuff done by circles. Now, these rocks that have come to us or given to us, and what we're doing is quite a few of these, not so much the ones I'm showing you now, but there's quite a few others, and they're all going back to the sacred place from which they were taken in 1959, and we're in the process right now of arranging their repatriation. But it's quite possible, this is going to take a little bit of time because we're working through 2 people at the moment, that those rocks will still be with us for our next online workshop. And there are more, not just the ones I'm showing you. There's quite a few others. These two stand out particularly because when you look at this one here, which I'm going to hold up now, every line on every one of these circles. All the way around is a spiral, but the width continues the same all the time, and the gap between each one is the same all the time. And I do not believe what you're looking at here on this side and on the other side here, I don't believe that was done just basically with a piece of obsidian or a sharp rock cutting into that. It's impossible to get that consistency of lines running across and the consistency of depth, the width, and there's no kinking. Now the rock is also fascinating in this respect. You don't normally find rocks like this. This has been worked a lot. A lot's been done to this one before it got to the stage it was then marked. It was coated first, then cut. And that gives, oh, that's way past. That's technology we've been dealing with all the time. Now there's another 4 or 5 of these rocks, and all of them are incredibly powerful. And we'll be going into the circle for our workshop. And then what we're doing, the reason I'm mentioning that is because on the next day, after we're only doing a 1-day workshop, 2 sessions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. On the next day, of course, we're doing the online conference. And what we're going to do there is after we've done our talk, and we normally just go 15 minutes break where we just cut transmission and then we come back again. On this occasion, after our break, we're going to take the camera and place it inside the circle and do what the people would have been doing the day before when they sat inside it for 15 minutes. Now, of course, the people online can't sit inside it, but we can take the camera inside, which takes you inside that. Now, we've done this once before with the second presentation, and quite a few people said they got reactions to it. Now, I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm not making any promises, but since it was set up the day before for the the workshop, we thought we'd just see what happens and bring it to part of the online presentation. And in that presentation, we're obviously going to be talking about these rocks, and in the workshop the day before, we'll have them in the circle, and then when we're doing our presentations in the Dell's Art Studio, when everyone's spent their time inside the circle, we'll then do some gloves on workshops looking at some of these rocks to find out more details and archaeological enigmas created by some of these rocks, particularly these two. The other ones are slightly different technology, which I think is in keeping with stick, stone and bone technology. These two are not. And they are amazing rocks, and I can tell you, and I'll talk more about that on the day, that the person who had these rocks got fascinating reactions. And in an article, I'm going to get her to spend about 500 words explaining what happened to her that brought it to the process to contacting us so we could put the rocks back on country. I'm just showing you 2 in particular that are from this technology we seek out. I mean, there's no way anybody could create this circular rock with the polish on top and the sides like that, and then this piece down the bottom's knocked away so it can be held like this. And that way, because when you rough it up, when you're trying to make skin contact, you've got to get to the rock underneath, not to the coat on top. And that's what they've done with this one. And the person who actually found this thought it could have been a grinding stone. I said, no grinding stone ever was made like this. An amazing circular piece. And the other one, as I said, just from the way the rock was created, to get it to the stage where they could cut like they did in spirals, which I've never seen anywhere before. So many questions, of which many we don't have the answers to. So I'm inviting you to join our online conference and also our workshop if you're close in Australia somewhere, but many people aren't. So we're trying to compromise that slightly by, on the second day, taking the camera in for a 15-minute meditation and taking you inside the rocks at the same time. And we'll see how that goes. I suspect it might work. We'll find out, but that's the whole purpose of the exercise. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all I want to talk about this time. I do want to explain one other thing. I'm putting up an article at the moment. I've been a bit slow for the last month and a half because we've been caught up in putting up 2 books. one about the interviews with Mesrith and the one about Slater, and they're both done. Now, the interviews with Mesrith one, called Conversation with an Alien, was actually published, and we did have hard copies of it, but there was a problem, which wasn't picked up, and that's our fault to an extent. The section where we used the machine to translate what I said and what Leah said came out appallingly. And what happened was so many words were messed up, and important words like Lemuria became myriad. Mesrith became midriff.
Educasi.
Oh, that's right. Education became education. And what it was doing is it was taking my Australian Strine accent and turning virtually everything I said into another word that I didn't recognise, and sometimes words I've never said. And it made it impossible really to actually understand what was there. So we had to spend the last week and a half going through 190 pages of that transcript, and we took out about 50 and rewrote the rest of it basically because we couldn't understand it. Now, that book is now being published and will be ready in, say, a couple of days, I think. So that's coming out. And we will be talking about both that book and the book with Slater. And we'll be doing some fascinating online, workshop sessions with Mesrith's musings and also the information found from Slater. And we're going to set them up in a way where people will be involved in trying to work out the answer before we finally find out what the answer is. Anyway, I'll talk more about that later. So, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to join us both if you can, and if you can't, at least to one of these two, because the time's running short now. It's only a couple of months before the change begins, and we're going to be focusing in, and of course on our workshop, Lavani Trudy Roberts, she'll be there talking about old way, women's old way business, like she did on her last online conference, and she'll be there for half an hour do a half-hour session in both the morning and afternoon presentations. So come along and join us, and hopefully within about 5 or 6 days I'll have a new article to put up, because now that we've got past both Mesrith's book and the Slater's book have both now been completely read, written, and final stage of editing's taken place for both of them. So they'll know about be coming out. The Slater book will probably be another 2 or 3 weeks. We've just got to get the other one done. And then after that, we've only got a couple of months, ladies and gentlemen, and the change is coming. You've only got to look out the front door, the back door, out the window. You can see it everywhere. Until next time, I'll try and turn this off without Evan's help. Evan, I got a problem. The pointer's frozen.
Oh, you just gotta click.
Look. Oh, right.